and welcome to our webinar, Provisions of the CARES Act Impacting Charitable Donations in 2020. My name is Heidi Boynton. I'm the Director of Development here at Jacob's Heart, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. We're glad that you're here, and we hope that this short but informative webinar will help you be equipped for your deductions in 2020. I'm going to first introduce our panelists, and then they're going to take it away. We've got Lori Butterworth, our founder and executive director here at Jacob's Heart. Lori started Jacob's Heart in 1998 at her kitchen table when her friend's son Jacob was diagnosed with leukemia. She has since built the organization from the ground up. Under Lori's leadership, Jacob's Heart has grown from serving one child with cancer 20 plus years ago to a nationally recognized model of community-based pediatric palliative care, serving hundreds of children and thousands of family members each year. Lori's going to be speaking to you about legacy giving from the heart. We also have our current board president, Gail DeLaurie, CPA. She's the owner of Bianchi, Casavan and Pope, LLP, and a lifelong resident of Salinas Valley. Gail DeLaurie joined the firm, then known as Casavan and Pope, in 1973 and became a partner in 1994. She prides herself on providing personal life service while at the same time establishing strong relationships with her clients. She's a member of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the California Society of Certified Public Accountants. Gail's numerous community activities include being a past chair and treasurer of the Community Foundation for Monterey County, past president and treasurer of the Foundation for Monterey County Free Libraries, as well as serving on numerous committees for Palma School for many years. Gail's going to be giving us the facts and figures on how best to maximize your donations. I'll let you two take it away.
Thank you. So it's an honor to talk with you all today about how to maximize your charitable impact while maximizing your tax deductibility. So I'll give you a little overview of what we're going to be talking about today. First, I'll be talking a little bit how to live your legacy. We've heard about legacy giving, and we'll go a little bit into some detail about what that really means to each donor. And then Gail will just describe the nuts and bolts of the CARES Act, some of the changes of the opportunities in the CARES Act for new tax deductibility for charitable gifts this year in 2020. And then we'll open it up for some questions and have a little discussion. So first, I love this quote by Anne Frank, that no one has ever become poor by giving. This notion that if we give, we're going to lose. But I'll tell you, after 22 years of working with donors and making an impact, that the giving increases. It increases the quality of your life, and making it really clear what it means to you. How you spend your time and your money is truly the best reflection of the things that are important to you. And so when we talk about legacy giving, we're usually talking about giving money after you die. But I want to encourage all of us to really start to live that legacy and do what's important to us now. So one way to do that, you know, every nonprofit, they have a mission statement, and it's kind of fun to always look at a mission statement. At Jacob's Heart, our mission statement is to improve the quality of life for children with cancer by supporting their families in the challenges they face. So it's really helpful if each and every individual can sit down and write down what's important to you for your charitable mission now, before you're gone. Just to say, I'd like to, and whatever it is, it might be children, it might be the environment, it might be it might be alleviating poverty, and then what's the mechanism? How do you want to do that in your life? And this is just a really fun exercise, even to sit around a table and do with your family. And so then you can hear from your children and your loved ones really about what's important. What do we want to do to improve something, to change something, to support by, and then the way we're going to do that. Doing that when you're alive and talking with your family is just really impactful. It's a good thing to do on Thanksgiving, by the way. And then you make it known. You to talk with your friends about it, talk with your family about it, talk with your trust attorney. You can write it down and make it clear. And the good thing about doing this when you're alive is that when you're gone, nobody's going to be surprised about what's important to you. And then I always like to really encourage people to live your legacy now. Be the person now that you want to be remembered for. And the best way to measure that is how we spend our time and our money. So now I'd like to turn it over to Gail, and we can talk about the 2020 CARES Act and the opportunities, the nuts and bolts of how you can give. And such an honor to work with Gail and I. I got to say, this is kind of like who we are together as a board president and executive director, because I'm the visionary. I just want people to find meaning in their giving and have it really be connected with their heart and their soul and and who they are as a person. And then Gail's going to help us with the nuts and bolts of it. And this is how we run the organization too. So go ahead, Gail, my great counterpart in this endeavor.
It's a good pairing, Lori. Well, back in March, most of you have probably heard about this already, but Congress passed something called the CARES Act. And I really apologize in advance, but there's going to be lots of reference to acronyms here. CARES stood for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Stimulus. It's a mouthful. And it was created in response to the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic in the United States. One of the many provisions contained in the Act addresses the concerns that Congress had as it relates to the economic viability of nonprofits. They were acutely aware of the good work that was being done by these organizations, and they sought to ensure that public funding of these charities continued during this economically challenging time. And to that end, they provided tax incentives to those who choose to contribute to these nonprofits. So for example, in the past, a taxpayer could only deduct a charitable donation if they itemize their deductions. This provision has been changed with the creation of something that they call the universal deduction. It allows taxpayers who cannot itemize their deductions to take what we call an above the line deduction for their donations, thus reducing their taxable income. The maximum deduction under this provision is $300 for a single taxpayer and $600 for taxpayers who are married filing jointly. This is a big boost for those who are not itemizing, and that happens to be a lot of individuals since the Tax Reform Act of 2018 took place and state tax deductions were significantly limited, meaning a lot of people no longer itemized. Another provision of the Act relates to the limitation of charitable donations for those who can itemize their deductions. Prior to the CARES Act, taxpayers who itemized their deductions had their charitable deductions limited to 60% of their adjusted gross income. Here's an acronym again, and that's commonly referred to as the AGI. The CARES Act increases that limitation to 100% of the AGI. So you can see that's a very substantial increase for those who itemize. So let's look at an example. As an example, if the taxpayer's AGI was, let's say, $300,000, the limitation for charitable donations had previously been $180,000, $300,000 at the 60% limit. Under the new law, the limitation would be $300,000, the $300,000 at 100%. This is a wonderful opportunity for taxpayers who are looking to make a significant gift to their favorite charity to receive a substantial tax benefit at the same time. A similar provision applies to corporate entities. Previous law allowed corporations to deduct charitable donations up to 10% of their net income. This limitation, just for this year, has been increased to 25% of their net income. Another provision that you might have heard of in this new tax act suspended the required minimum distribution, the RMD, another acronym, from individual retirement accounts known as IRAs. However, if the taxpayer is at least age 70 and a half, they can make a tax-free transfer from their IRA directly to their charity. Single taxpayers can transfer up to $100,000, and married taxpayers filing jointly can transfer $100,000 each. That's assuming each of them has an IRA. So even though a distribution is not required in 2020, taxpayers may want to take advantage of this opportunity to make a tax-free transfer from their IRA to their favorite charity. After having said all of this, we would be remiss if we did not say that the tax laws are incredibly complicated. Hence, we would suggest that you discuss the specifics of the CARES Act that we've talked about today with your tax professional to understand how these provisions apply specifically to your particular situation. And in closing, I just want to say there are many ways to be a philanthropist. You can donate your time, your talents, your money to your favorite charities. The passage of the CARES Act merely provides an opportunity for more taxpayers to benefit from the monetary donations they give to charity.
And Gail, you know, truly, especially now with the COVID crisis impacting our local nonprofits, our charities trying to address the impact of COVID, now is really a great time to maximize, we have the opportunities to maximize your impact and then also maximize your deductibility. And so it's a great year to give. Because
Absolutely.
those charities that are working so hard, I know I speak here for Jacob's Heart, but there are so many colleagues that we work with and we know that are really trying to address the needs of people in these dire circumstances. And those local nonprofits that we know and love really need us now. And it's great that we have these additional deductibility options
Absolutely.
to that giving. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you, Gail and Lori. I just want to echo how fortunate we are at Jacob's Heart to have the two brains that are sitting on this panel, because we really need both, and it helps us have meaning, but also really strong connected purpose to where we go. So thank you both. We've got a few questions from our participants. So if you don't mind, I'll just throw them out and then either one of you can choose which one wants to answer. So our first question is about stocks. What about the donations of my stocks?
I think I can take that one. Stocks are not a part of this particular provision. You can still gift stock, but it will not be subject to that increase in limitation from the 60% to the 100%. Still can gift, just subject to different limitations.
Okay, great. Thanks for answering that one. Next one is, can I give directly to a family in need and then get a charitable donation?
I can go ahead and take that one as well. 501c3s, the reason they exist is because they benefit a larger community. So in other words, it can't be to an individual family or an individual person. They do not have the tax benefits of the 501c3 umbrella. So all donations, if you want them to remain taxable, must be made to a bona fide 501c3 charity.
You know,
that's great, Gail. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lori.
I do want to add that we've had that situation at Jacob's Heart quite a bit when people would like to give a gift to Jacob's Heart and have it go to one child. And, you know, we really can't do that because we are benefiting a population that fits the description of what our nonprofit 501c3 is registered under the IRS to do. So you really have to be willing and able to give toward a nonprofit that's addressing a mission rather than just one person. And sometimes it's really hard for people. I mean, there are actually scholarship funds where it's narrowed to a certain type of person, like a high school student that is, you know, graduating first in their class or things. Those parameters are all fine. We actually get donations that would go just to farm workers who have a child with cancer. Those kinds of limitations or those kind of descriptions are okay, but you can't just send it to one person. And no one would really want a nonprofit to be able to do that anyway.
Correct.
No, that's great clarification. Thanks for you both. So lastly, I have a two-part question here, and it actually is really appropriate with the last answer as well. How do I know where to give? And then how do I know if a charity is legitimate? Those are real questions for donors as they consider these new implications and giving more. So how can they be sure it's a good place to give?
Yeah, you know, I can take that because, you know, I think, especially now during COVID, I mean, I think donors are really looking for places that are really going to make an impact. You want to know when you give money now because everybody's struggling so much. You want to know that it's really going to go directly to what you want to have happen and change. So I always encourage people who have these kinds of questions to really give locally. If you can give locally and you can get to know the people at a nonprofit that are working, visit the nonprofit. I know we can't do that really now in COVID, but really be there with them, get to know them, ask questions, and because if you're investing in a partnership, it's not just you're just giving money and they're going to do it, but it's a partnership. So I would really encourage people to just talk and get to know the nonprofit, visit, and even if you're donating, volunteer some time to see where it's going. And then there are some ways to know that nonprofits are legitimate. It is required that every nonprofit under the IRS files a 990 form. And those 990 forms are public. And so you can go on, one good to find them easily is guidestar.org. And on GuideStar, you can look up the nonprofit and you can see where their money went, what was reported to the IRS, where their money went. You can see what their top executive makes in salary. You can see the percentages to programs and administration. And I really encourage people to really be savvy donors, know your nonprofits. And the best way to do that, I really encourage us to give locally, especially times like now.
That's great. Thank you so much for that in-depth explanation. It can be really hard to know, and especially like you were saying, with everything going on, we want to help and we want to give, and to know that we can make it beneficial for the giver and the receiver, how we do that with intention and understanding that where we're giving really does matter. If you are watching this and you have any more questions and you want to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out. We've got our emails listed on this final slide, and we'll do our very best to answer your questions or direct you to resources that might help you get the answers to those questions. Thank you, Lori and Gail, for taking time out of your day to help us understand the implications of this CARES Act and how it can really help us be more prolific and impactful donors and givers. So I hope you all have a great day, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any more questions.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you, Heidi. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Bye.
Bye-bye.